Yes, Rebecca. Are you there, Rebecca Boy?
I am
Yeah.
here. So excited to be here.
And Chris Cloud. Hey, Chris. Wow, man. How you doing?
It's a long time making. Glad to be here.
Thank you all for watching and supporting.
I am just a big patriot and lover of freedom. And
I'm coming to you guys from what I call the front line of the heartland.
All right, today, what's going on, Crow? It is Thursday. It's 7:14, and we have a great show. I am Daryl McKell Brooks. That's Chris. Hey, Chris. All right.
Good evening, everybody. Good to see you.
All right, Rebecca Boyd.
hello, everyone. Glad to be here.
So, what's going on? How was y'all weekend? How was your week?
I see something new and exciting on Daryl's face.
Oh, yeah, glasses. Oh, yeah. Woo.
I like
see?
them, Daryl.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yep.
What's going on, Chris? So, how was your weekend, Chris?
Very busy and mundane, but I had a good day yesterday and today. Taking some time and doing some projects around the house that have been a long time in the making. So I'm happy.
And you had a great turnout. Yes, you did. Tell us about the turnout.
Did. Bonfire last
week. The bonfire.
Week. Saturday, we had a good turnout.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, surprising, and we're really good speakers. And I look forward to getting to know them more.
Oh yeah, it was exciting. You know, one of the things I like about the bonfire, Chris, is after the bonfire, we all sit in your living room and have a great discussion. It's one of the matter of fact, the guest coming on today, Mr. Thomas Caldwell, will be here, and he probably, I guess, want to lead the discussion. We had a great talk, and that's one of the things I do like about going to the bonfires, having these great discussions and talking about political issues, social issues, and I wish everybody, all my friends, could come out and just sit out and have these great discussions. So, Rebecca, how was your weekend? You do anything
Pretty
special,
good.
fun?
I'm regretful I missed another bonfire. One of these weekends, I'm going to get down for one. I'm looking forward to that. Sounds like a really good time.
Yeah, you have the greatest.
A lot of good people.
Yes, you have the greatest videos and the pictures with the snow. Oh
yeah.
My God! Yeah, with the dogs in the snow and the birds and and the horses.
Still winter here.
It looks like Christmas all over.
Yeah.
So we have a great show today. We have Mr. Thomas Caldwell and we have Dr. Mary Sabrin coming on and talking about issues on education, immigration, what's happening around the world, America Revolution, all these things that what's on people's minds, what's going on today. So let's get with it. Let's bring them both on. Welcome to America. All right. Hey, how you guys doing today? Mr. Thomas Caldwell. How you doing? Professor Sabrin.
How are you, Daryl? Good to see you again.
Okay. Oh, can we hear Mr. Caldwell? Can we hear you, Thomas? I can't hear you. Oh, I can hear you. Can you hear us? Hold on. Hello? I think something's wrong with his mic. Just waiting for him to log on. Okay, he's disappeared. So we're gonna we can't hear, but we're gonna hold off on Thomas Caldwell till he get his mic fixed, and we'll bring him back on. All right. What did he say?
Is he muted on our end?
Negative.
No, you're not muted on our end, Tom. You're not muted on our end.
We're just trying to get things right.
Yeah, no worries.
Right. So we're gonna start the show. We're just going to Mr. Caldwell gets his mic right. So, Mr. Mary Sabrin, Dr. Sabrin, how you been?
Well, trying to stay focused on the important issues of the day and preparing a major lecture I'm giving at the Mises Institute in 3 weeks.
Oh, okay. I am glad you're feeling a lot better. You know,
Well,
you've been
thank
on
you.
this show maybe 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 times. And you've been a definitely expert on the economy, immigration issues. You know, so we're going to be talking about issues, what's happening right now. Immigration issues is the thing that's on people's mind. We have a big problem in America. And we have people coming from all over the world in this country. And we talked, we had a interesting discussion at Chris' house about, you see a lot of the Chinese people there, people from China is coming to this country. And we now see what happened in Georgia, in Georgia with the girl getting murdered at the college and, you know, at the university. So, I mean, these are things that's on people's mind. People are afraid. You see what's happening in New York. I think, Lana, do we have that clip? We're going to show Professor Sabrin that clip from New York where the individuals were rioting. Can we go to that clip?
You got to stand by for that clip.
Okay.
Thomas, you're hot now?
Apparently, yes.
Great!
All right.
There we
Everybody
go.
back on.
Welcome to the show.
So,
Yeah, okay.
so we want your perspectives on the issues of immigration right now in America. What is the biggest problem that you see? Starting with Professor Sabrin.
Well, we just don't have a policy that allows immigrants to come in an orderly, non-chaotic fashion where they're vetted in their home country, just like my father was vetted in 1949 before we came to America from West Germany. And he was thoroughly vetted because he was a partisan commander during World War II in Poland. And so I guess the American authorities wanted to know what his political allegiances were and was he going to be a subversive here or whatever. And so he told me he was thoroughly questioned about his experiences during World War II. I was a 2-year-old. My brother was a 6-year-old. And I guess we were in good health because they didn't keep us any longer than we had to. And so we came to America sailing across the ocean with the proper papers, by the way. My father got sponsorship from his first cousin and his great aunt in America. And that's the model of immigration that I feel is something we should be pursuing, is that people should be vetted in their own country, at the American consulate or embassy, and then have a sponsor here in the United States and social welfare agencies helping them out, as one did when we came to America. We eventually got an apartment in Lower Manhattan. My father went to work at a pencil factory for $1 an hour. And that's what immigrants had been doing for decades before that and decades after that. But for some reason, this whole immigration system has broken down. And the question is why? And I think the answer from the Democrats' perspective is they want as many immigrants coming in to be good Democratic voters. And the other thing we're noticing is the expenditures for healthcare, housing, food, clothing is going through the roof. New York City is a sanctuary city. California is a sanctuary state. And the expenditures for undocumented immigrants is just going through the roof. Mm-hmm. California's got a huge budget deficit now. They used to have a big surplus because of the COVID money. Now they've got, I think, a $70 billion deficit because of all the spending that they're doing. So no one in Washington is saying, stay in your own country and get vetted. And that's the proper policy that would solve a lot of the problems. And unfortunately, the Democrats don't want that. And the Republicans should make that as the fault line, that if you don't have this policy in place, we're not going to fund all these other programs that you want. And that I think the Republicans should be playing hardball with the Democrats, because the Democrats play hardball all the time. And that's why they've been winning election after election and policy after policy. And unless Republicans get a backbone and say, if we want to have a country which has historically been with immigrants, the question now becomes, Daryl and Rebecca and Chris, is do we want to have a country with literally scores of various ethnic groups? And how do you have a cohesive country without looking like Yugoslavia, which of course is no longer in existence. They went their separate ethnic ways. So this is the danger I see in America for the next 20, 30, 40 years, that we have so many immigrants from so many different countries that there'll be a splintering of the country, which, by the way, I predicted nearly 5 years ago when I gave a lecture at Ramapo College just before I retired. And I think that's going to happen. Remember, this is before COVID. And I said, given what I know about American society, American culture, there are too many centrifugal forces that are going to force the country to break up, just like Yugoslavia was broken up. And it's not, could it happen in our lifetime? Well, most of you are all of you are a lot younger than I am. I think it could happen within the next 20, 30, 40 years. I think it certainly can happen in the second half of the 21st century because the country is so diverse. And I'm going to throw a term that the progressives like to use. Can you have a diverse country under a centralized control under Washington, D.C.? And that's the question that no one wants to talk about in Washington. Can diversity be our strength, as a lot of people say, or is the diversity not our strength, but it causes politically us to separate into separate entities? And I think that's on the horizon.
Mr. Thomas Caldwell.
Okay, yeah, Professor, completely agree. The answer, if you have this much diversity, as you call it, the answer is no. The early immigration in the United States, late 1800s, early 1900s. Has anyone here ever been to the Immigration Museum at Ellis Island? I strongly recommend you go there. Yeah, it's a great place to go. One of the things they understood is when you're bringing diverse groups in, you bring them in, and then you have to let them acclimate. The idea of Irish and Italians living in the same country at one point was considered nuts. Oh my goodness, we can't have that. But they were brought in, different European groups, which are pretty different if you understood it. And they were brought in, then they shut down immigration for a few decades and then allowed that acclimation. Now, if somebody has Irish ancestry, Italian, and nobody's going to even think about it. You have to let people acclimate. The answer is you can't if you just bring people in that are that different. There's no country in the world that is what we would call multicultural that does not exist without a very strong, ruthless central government. Singapore being one of them. Has anyone here ever been to Singapore?
Yeah.
Singapore is a very diverse place, but it has a ruthless government to keep things tight. We had a very good system that we threw away in 1965 with the Hart-Celler Act, where we just decided to open the door to everybody and not demand that they become part of the family, as it were. That being said, will the U.S. break up? Well, no country lasts forever. At some point, something's going to happen. I think what we're looking at is what I call the second or third death of the United States. The Civil War, the previous country died, and something new replaced it, very new. And then, of course, when the Great Depression hit, something replaced that. And we're now entering what I call the post-superpower era, where we're going to stop being the top dog on the planet, and we're going to have to start playing nice with everybody else who lives on it.
Chris?
Well, I'm reminded of the evolution or the morphing. 2 points that I wanted to make about this. First off, this is such a huge mechanism at play. We cannot fool ourselves to think that this is not structured, organized, and motivated. And it's just not done by us. It's not done by we the people. It's done by forces other than who we're conventionally used to. And the second point that I wanted to make is I remember the mixing bowl. We used to be a mixing bowl country. Not a mixing bowl anymore. We're a salad bowl. Think about the distinction there. We're not a soup. We are salad, where a carrot goes in there and it stays a carrot. There is no more acclimation like you were talking about. There's no more becoming American, and I think the leftist powers in this nation promote that because it causes the other, and the other is dependent to the state.
So, Professor Sabrin, how do a country like America that we're in debt, how do we pay for this? It's you're talking about billions of dollars And how do the American people pay for this and the federal government? Because we know about the Federal Reserve, we know about the money wasting. We basically were in Ukraine, and now we're in Israel, spending more money on both wars. Um, what happens to a country like America that's overspending and in
Well,
debt?
this is a question I've been grappling with for the last 50 years since I became aware of it in the early 70s, when Nixon did wage price controls and severed the last link between the dollar and gold. And we've been on a tear in terms of government spending increasing, and it's accelerated. This is something that has happened under both Trump and Biden. I mean, I'm putting on my hat as an analyst and not as a partisan here. Both Republicans and Democrats are responsible for the mess that we're in, because the Democrats gave us the New Deal, gave us the Great Society. Then when when Eisenhower was elected in the 50s, he didn't roll back any of the New Deal. When Nixon was elected in 68, he didn't roll back any of the Great Society programs. And when Reagan came in on a promise to end the Department of Education and Energy, that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so Republicans have failed to do what they said they're going to do, which is namely establish limited government, personal responsibility, and more free markets. Now, they've done some deregulation. The irony here, Daryl, is that Jimmy Carter got the deregulation bandwagon going in the 1970s, and Reagan continued it, and Trump did some deregulation, which is probably one of the best things you can do for the business community. Get rid of these onerous regulations, which basically raise expenditures, which are essentially an unlegislated tax. And then, of course, the Federal Reserve enables all this because they've been printing money, buying up government debt, which allows the federal government to run these huge deficits. If you got rid of the Federal Reserve, the federal government would have to balance its budget without relying on the Federal Reserve to buy up some of this debt. Mm-hmm. And that's why the Federal Reserve and the federal government, even though the Federal Reserve is supposedly independent, they're essentially the enabler of the deficit spending of the federal government and the enabler of the wars that we've been involved in since the end of World War II. Mm-hmm. And so being a longtime critic of the Federal Reserve and the income tax and the welfare state, we have a lot of work to do in this country to get us back to a republic that the founders created for us. And it's not going to happen overnight. But look what's happening in Argentina, where you have a self-proclaimed libertarian elected president, and they have the first surplus last month for the first time, I think, in 12 years. And what he did was he cut spending in a lot of bureaucracies by 50%. Think of that. Could you imagine if somebody proposed reducing spending by 50%? They would go crazy on MSNBC and CNN, the Washington Post, the New York Times. But it can be done. Mm-hmm. And so we need somebody to stand up and say, both parties are responsible for the mess, and we've got to clean up the financial problems we have in this country. And the way we do that is we cut spending that is not authorized by the Constitution. That's the real constitutional crisis we have in America. As a naturalized citizen who took an oath to uphold the Constitution, I've gone through Article 1, Section 8, and virtually nothing that the federal government spends on is authorized by the Constitution, except defense spending and some other auxiliary things. There's nothing there for Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, housing, transportation, food stamps, you name it. It's just not there. And the other thing that's not there, Daryl, and there was a letter by a retired colonel in the local paper the other day criticizing our congressman for not supporting Ukraine aid. And I'm reading this and I'm saying, you're a colonel. You took an oath to uphold the Constitution. What does it say that the military is authorized to go and create democracies around the world, or the federal government can spend money around the world supporting countries, which is not in our interest, to say the least, because we saw what happened in Korea, and Vietnam, and Afghanistan, and Iraq. So again, this is the welfare warfare state on steroids, Daryl. And if we don't turn the ship around, we are going to have a major financial crisis down the road. There's no question about that.
We'll be right back. We're going to go to a commercial break. And Mr. Thomas Caldwell, we'll be right back.
Gotcha.
I'm going to let you come on next. Hello, can we go to a commercial break?
I don't know if Frankie's here because Rebecca keeps posting that she's back and she can't get back into the show.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna wait, Mr. Thomas Caldwell. Talk about American society. You know, we had a discussion at Chris' house where you had you talked about there's so many of our younger generation that are functionally illiterate, don't know what's happening. You know, what type of society are we headed at?
Oh, I think we're heading into an abyss. And I'm not an economist like like Professor Sabrin here, but I still can't figure out how we're going to pay back $34 trillion. And I'm beginning to think that a lot of this is by design, because one of the things that I've noticed with the younger people is they're not able to really engage in critical thought. All right. And one of the things I've also noticed is they can't read books for content. Okay. Now, the best way you can ever pass information on from one human being to another is with the written word that you read. There's no more efficient system. There's no way to plug something into your brain and download it like in the Matrix or something like that. The movie, you have to sit and read, and you have to read books. And there's only so many books you could possibly read in your lifetime if you do the mathematics of it. The average human lasts about 23,000 days or so. If you go through a book every 10 days, if you're really a reader, you're not going to get that many done in your lifetime. I would just say that we have to deal with people that don't believe that we have that we have a round earth. I've been running across younger people that are absolutely convinced that the earth is flat. This is a thing now. This is something, it's crazy. And this is a result of the educational system we have. Now, we talked a little bit earlier about the Cultural Revolution that's here. I don't know if anyone saw the interview that Tucker Carlson did with a woman named Xi Van Fleet, the Chinese. Okay, you got the book already? I have it too. I'm reading it. I'm about a third of the way through it. Now, back in 2017, when everything started to go crazy about the time of Charlottesville, I was seeing them tear down statues. Oh, you got that one too. Life and Death in Shanghai. It took me about a year to get through that book. It was so horrifying. And when I was living in the Far East, okay, you got a lot of good books there. When I was living in the Far East, I got to know people who were caught up in the Cultural Revolution. In fact, some of the participants in China. And it was total insanity. But we're seeing the same sort of thing here. We are seeing the intellectual elite. Remember, the Cultural Revolution began at the university level among the people running the universities who were pretty well off, the academics, and it spread from there. And one of the things that was pointed out in that interview, and I wish everyone should get that book and also watch that interview, is that when you run across leftists of the kinds we see in our streets now, that are very happy when someone gets hurt, very happy when someone dies, very happy when that goes on. It's a very short step to actually doing the killing yourself. And that's what happened in China between 1966 and 1976. And it was a horror. And we're already pretty much going there. We have clinics dedicated to genital mutilation of children. We have so much insanity in this country right now that most of us have a hard time even comprehending it. So where we are now, just in terms,
Post-humanist.
Yep. I'm sorry.
Post-humanism.
Okay, but this is where we're at right now, and I don't see us pulling out of it unless people really start to fight back, and I mean really fight back. Because China had a civilization that went back 6,000 years, and it was literally thrown away by a bunch of spoiled children. Okay.
Rebecca?
Yeah, I think we're in trouble. And I was thinking about that today, trying to see the positives. And are people waking up enough to the massive problems in our country? And I would like to be positive enough to think that, after COVID, people started kind of catching on to what was happening, more government control, people not liking it so much. Now we have this massive influx of illegals coming into our country, and people are kind of recognizing now that this is not a good thing. We can't afford it. It's negatively impacting us, and it's going to keep negatively impacting us if we don't correct the problem. So hopefully it turns out in voting. I just don't know if it's going to be enough. Even if we get someone elected into office who says, okay, we're going to correct the illegal immigration problem, then what? Because we still have a major cultural problem. We touched on the culture problem earlier, culture clashing with illegals coming across the border with totally different cultures than we have. But I feel like we're losing our own culture just with all this, like he said, genital mutilation of children. We're kind of losing our value system. And I feel like that's what we really need to get back to. We need to get back to what America was built on, our values that we were founded on, that we hold dear. And it's a lot to work on. Are enough people waking up to all of that? I don't know. I guess time will tell, unfortunately.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm praying so.
All right, now we can get to go to a station break. Go to our commercials. We'll be right back.
Mhm.
All right, guys. So we got 556 custom built, Tech, Sounds of Cold, Spec War suppressor, and Cerakoted in graphite black and black cherry.
All right, Flip Ammo is that? Flip Ammo is there. So we're back. So Professor Mary Sabrin,
Yeah.
you know, let's talk about American culture. Explain to us what is American culture.
That's an interesting concept because the founders, I think, gave us the political culture that we should be in. And then de Tocqueville, when he came and visited America, talked about another part of a culture which he thought was very dynamic and very important, namely voluntarism. And unfortunately, that's gone by the wayside because everything, not everything, but our
Oh, go
okay,
ahead.
that's our political culture is based upon just the opposite. It's based upon coercion. You got the income tax. You've got all these regulatory agencies out there. You've got vaccine mandates. I mean, you have people writing in about don't we own our own bodies, except when it comes to vaccines that the government says you must take. And I want to throw something out there to tell you exactly what I think has happened in America. And that was June of 1973 when Roe versus Wade legalized abortion nationwide. And that, I think, changed the culture of America dramatically, plus the women's movement of the 1960s. So for me, even though I was pro-choice at the time, I thought Roe versus Wade was a horrible decision because that issue had always been at the state level where it should be, because there's nothing in the federal government that talks about abortion or anything like that. But what abortion meant at that time is that human life is not sacred. That life in the womb is no more important than something that is disposable, which is exactly what an abortion is. You're disposing of human life without due process, I might add, from a legal perspective. And so what happened with the Dobbs decision, overturning Roe versus Wade and bringing abortion back to the states, the Democrats think that they have a big issue. But from a cultural perspective, and I've been giving this issue a lot of thought since in 1997, when I ran for governor in New Jersey. Daryl may remember that as Libertarian Party candidate. 2 years earlier, one of my students, a non-traditional student, showed me pictures of a partial birth abortion. I said, how in God's name could this be legal in America where you're killing a newborn baby? And then I called up Congressman Ron Paul, who's a pro-life libertarian Republican, and he sent me his book, Challenge to Liberty, which outlines the pro-life position from a libertarian perspective. And that convinced me that there was no incompatibility between libertarianism and pro-life, because the first axiom of libertarianism is the non-aggression principle. So abortion is aggression against the unborn child. And so I made that case throughout the campaign, especially against partial birth abortion. But I think the whole abortion question is a real turnaround, because it shows that people think that life is dispensable. It is not worth protecting. And if you don't believe life in the womb is worth protecting, then we see what's happening today, where DAs are releasing people who've been charged and arrested for committing crimes in the act. And so this, I think, is just showing the relationship between life is disposable to we don't have to prosecute people who are committing these heinous crimes around the country. Now, of course, the Georgia University situation is about as horrific as you can get. An illegal coming in, arrested in New York City, released, going down to Georgia, killing a nursing student. And I don't know how Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and everyone else in the administration sleep at night, because their policies allow this to happen. And this shows you the lack of conscience of people, which means that they're sociopaths. That's what this means, that they don't regard human life important. And that to me means a society in major decline, because that's what happened in Nazi Germany, in Stalinist Russia, Soviet Union, and in Mao's China. Human life was disposed of like lint. And that's the thing that I find so troubling about American culture, that life is not revered, life is not sacred. And I don't know if I mentioned this to you, Daryl, but I mentioned this in a talk I recently gave. Let me take you back to spring of 1967, when I was a college student, watching a local show on Passover, because it was Passover that week. And the rabbi was interviewed on the local TV show, and he said the essence of Judaism is the sanctity of human life. That always stuck with me, even though I was pro-choice at the time as a college student. But think of that he said the religion is based upon the sanctity of human life. I would go back and saying it's right there in the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not kill, and thou shalt not steal, except when it comes to government. They get a pass when it comes to these things.
Yeah,
And
Chris?
that I think is why everyone should read Frederick Bastiat's The Law, because he basically says the only thing right that the government has to do is what we as individuals have the right to do, the right to self-defense. Everything else should be done by the private sector or the social service sector, the nonprofit sector. And to me, Daryl, when I first read that exactly 50 years ago, that was a game changer for me philosophically, that he really put the hammer on the nail, saying, this is what Western culture is all about. The state has one responsibility: to protect us from the bad guys and to protect our borders from potential invaders. Anything else is either unconstitutional or immoral or not consequential for the population.
All right, Chris, like you want to say something.
I always look like I want to say something. It's the natural progression towards the goal of post-humanism. You look at what happens right now in Canada with the euthanizing and euthanasia, and that'll find its way to California, and what happens in California will find its way east. There you go.
Oh.
It's just the natural progression or the natural degeneration.
To the whole abortion issue, I'm glad he mentioned that, the devaluation of human life, because you can see it playing out in our society. Everyone is so disgusted by mass shootings and, you know, these young people shooting up schools. It's like we're raising children in a society that values life like it's nothing.
Right.
Like you can abort your baby, you can abort a baby that's close to full term. You know, it's mutilation of a baby. A lot of the abortions is ripping limbs off of a baby.
New York City, New
with
York
no
State.
pain medication. They can feel that. We have zero empathy for human life and pain, and then we expect, you know, children that we're bringing up in this society and this culture to have empathy when we don't even have it in our society. So you could see it playing out.
You know, Mr. Thomas Caldwell, you know, Professor Sabrin said he looks at it, you say 20 to 30 years. I'm looking at it probably the next 5 years.
Yeah, or next year.
Next year.
Yeah.
How things are.
If I could just answer a couple of these questions here.
Going
First
far
off,
left.
American. I'm sorry?
Things are going far left.
Yeah. American culture is an extension of European culture. We're originally a European cultural system. Our institutions are from Europe. We trace our history back to Magna Carta, our system of government. And this is one of the reasons why when people come here, if they're not acclimated, if they come from a place where religion is in charge or communism, it's a mess. Okay, so we do have a culture. It has been kind of ignored, but we were considered basically Europeans who were rejects. Let's face it, people who came to the United States were the scum of the earth from wherever they came from. They fled here. My ancestors fled here. Very few affluent people showed up in the day. They came here to get away from whatever. Think about what it was like coming back from, you know, Europe. You said goodbye to your family. You'll never see them again. You came here and a lot of people died along the way. Another thing too, a country without borders is not a country. We are being invaded. And a lot of the things we're talking about, we should have been talking about 30 or 40 years ago. And now people are thinking, I wonder if it's a problem. It's past a problem. We cannot pay back $34 trillion, soon to be $35 trillion. That's a mathematical impossibility. Okay. And part of the reason we're able to do that, if any, you know, is because the US dollar was the global reserve currency. And now everyone's sick of that because Americans were using that as a weapon. That's where sanctions came from. Oh, well, if you're dealing with dollars, you're going to have to deal with the United States. Now they're dealing with the yuan. Now they're dealing with the ruble. I think the ruby's going to get in there. People are tired of us, okay? But we're right now looking at problems that should have been addressed decades ago, and the chickens have come home to roost right now. We have, I don't know where you guys are physically, but if you go to Northern Virginia and it is a mess. There's gunshots every night. You go to some parts of Prince William County or Fairfax County, it's a mess. Okay, and that's all over the United States. You have people coming into this country who are not necessarily going to go work for restaurants or work in gardens. They probably are some pretty bad actors. So I don't want to sound too much of a downer, but we really, you know, there's waking up is past the point. We got to take action now. And how do I think that Mr. Biden sleeps at night? He probably sleeps very well because he doesn't know what planet he's on. But the people in charge are basically without morals right now. They are not good beings.
Yeah. We're going to go to another station break. We'll be right back. This is the On Fire Show.
Flip Ammo is your trusted source of high-quality ammunition. We're passionate about shooting and offer a wide range of products from bulk ammo to hard-to-find rounds, all at competitive prices. You can choose from local pickup or fast daily shipping. We are the fastest shippers in the industry. We strategically developed our space next to the UPS shipping center and can ship most orders same day till 7 p.m. Our dedicated customer service team is always available for any questions or product recommendations. Experience the passion, expertise, and exceptional service that sets us apart. Flip Ammo, your trusted source for high-quality ammunition.
back. This is the On Fire Show with your host, Daryl McKell Brooks, Rebecca Boyd, and Chris Clow. And we got our very special guest, Mr. Thomas Caldwell, and Professor Mary Sabrin. So let's talk, one of the things we talk about immigration, and we're looking at people all say, okay, well, we have the Guatemalans, Mexicans, Venezuelans, and they're all of age, men 18 to 23. And now the big talk is we have the Chinese coming over here. And, it's thousands of Chinese immigrants are coming to America. And, people say, question, are there terrorists coming in this country? And why is China sending their people in America? We're going to ask Professor Mary Sabrin. What do you think about that? Your first one.
That is a $64,000 question. The question is, are they here to do some nefarious activities in any of our institutions, higher education, or other utilities, higher education, infrastructure? I mean, we just don't know. I mean, this is why it's important to vet people in their own country to see what skills they have. I mean, my father was a locksmith when he came to America. So that's on my birth certificate. It said my father's name and his occupation, locksmith. And so who are the people coming in and what their skill set is? And I'm just amazed at how people think that what we have today is good, is right, is moral, is decent, is worthwhile for the American people, who are being fleeced to the tunes of tens of billions of dollars a year because of the benefits people are receiving. In New York City, they're getting debit cards. So the question is, why are people coming here? Which belies the whole notion that we're a systematic racist country. Why so many people from third world countries coming here if it's such a systematic country? I guess they didn't get the memo from Joe Biden that the United States is a systemic racist country. So something's afoot here. And the question is, will this have an impact this summer at the Democratic and Republican conventions or in the fall during the election? What if there are some incidents around the country and the powers that be say, okay, we're not going to have voting on election day. It's all going to be mail-in ballots. If that happens, who knows what the outcome could be if you have mail-in ballots in every jurisdiction in the country.
Welcome to America.
Well, I'm in Florida. I don't think DeSantis would allow that to happen. But Biden, as president, could declare a national emergency, saying it's too dangerous to go to the polls.
All right. Mr. Thomas Caldwell, is there something nefarious happening especially with the Chinese coming to our country?
Yeah. Let me, has anyone here ever been to China for any quality time besides myself? You have been. Okay. You're familiar with the Opium Wars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're still angry at us. Okay. Yeah. Let me tell you, just to, satisfy, a lot of the world wants us gone. They really do. The Chinese, they're still angry over 500 million of their people that died at the hands of Western drug dealers. Hong Kong was settled by drug dealers, one of whom was a guy named Warren Delano. Does that name sound familiar?
Yeah.
The thing is that, they're not, the Chinese coming here are not going to work at laundries or restaurants. I don't buy that for a second. I don't think anyone should.
They have a long memory.
They have a long memory, and America
and they're very
is
patient.
hated by much of the world. They want us done. They're not coming here to be locksmiths. They're not. I know you're professor. Your family came here. They worked hard, and they did well. But these people are not coming here because they're into the American dream. These governments want to destroy the American dream,
and they're
doing
these
it.
People.
Yes, Chris.
They're sending them. Yeah, they're sending them. They're not.
Yeah, they're coming here.
These are people that are saying, "Oh, I'm going to go for a better life in America."
China purchased a mountain in Peru because it has copper in it. These guys are you know what the Chinese are doing in the Pacific? They are raiding sunken warships from World War II that are graves to harvest the metal. Okay, that's been documented. Why? Because the metal there was created before there was atomic weapons, and it's supposed to have some sort of purity level used for certain stuff. They're, ripping up ships from the bottom of the ocean with bones of our ancestors in them. They're playing for keeps, and they've been playing for keeps a long time. So it's not a matter of are they trying to be nice? No, it's like somebody coming into your home in the middle of the night. I wonder if he's just lost. No. Let's be a little real here. The rest of the world's been trying to get rid of us for a long time. They're angry at us, and we've earned some of the anger. To be very, very honest, we have not learned to mind our own business in certain places. But no, we're way past the point where we should be discussing this, and action needs to be taken. And that there's no other choice at this point. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, one of the things is that people always wanted to say, well, the government knows these things are happening. And why haven't they done anything about it? I mean, come on.
They have. They've orchestrated.
I mean,
exactly. I mean, the government's come out and admitted that we have terrorists coming in our country from other countries illegally, and they don't know where they are.
Is there dark?
Does anybody think this is accidental or not intentional?
What does a federal employee want? They want a nice, safe job. They want a pension, and they want benefits. They're not going to take any risks. They're not going to do something that they're not told to do. This is where we get all these stories about rogue government agencies. Are you kidding? They're not going to risk anything for what the Chinese call the Iron Rice Bowl. They're not, I'm sorry, no one's going to take, they're not going to do anything until they see the firemen at the window.
Wow. Professor Sabrin, former President Trump said once he gets elected, mass deportation, so like the wetback. Just start having a mass deportation. Do you believe, is that possible in 2024, 2025, a mass deportation?
I would imagine it would take a lot more ICE agents to do that around the country. You probably would need 50 to 100,000 ICE agents to do that because they're scattered all over the country. And so do we know where they are? I mean, who knows where they are? I mean, they're certainly coming into California and Arizona now. That's where the migrants are coming in right now. They're leaving. They're not coming into Texas anymore as much as they have, but they're going to other places, and they're welcomed with open arms. Certainly in California, but not in Arizona. The senator there is upset about it. She just became an independent from being a Democrat. So people are really worried about what's happening at their local at their local communities because trespassing is going through the roof. The farmers are beside themselves because their land is being overrun. Who knows how many crops and other things have been destroyed on farmland. And so the fact that our government, our federal government, is not enforcing the laws that are on the books on immigration is enough to impeach everybody in Washington, D.C., as far as I'm concerned, because they took an oath to uphold the Constitution and the Supreme and the laws of the land. And if they're not doing so, then why are you there? You got to ask that question. Why are you in power if you're not doing what the law says you should be doing?
Mr. Caldwell?
Well, the answer is, is it going to be possible to deport what is probably far more than the official numbers? It's probably in the 100 million range by now. The answer is no. And how come nobody's asking why people from Africa and Asia and South Asia are showing up in South America? Did they swim there? No. Yeah. Somebody's paying to bring them in. Who? Exactly. A lot of these NGOs from different places in Europe. Okay.
In America, non-government organizations. Also the non-government organizations in America that are, supporting them. I mean, if you look at Tucker Carlson, and he interviewed some people and at the border, and he talked about they get free rides on airplanes. He's the non-government organizations paying them to just fly anywhere around the country.
Follow the money. Where's the money coming from? Who's paying to put people on airplanes in Ethiopia, fly them to Mexico, South America, herd them up, and get them into the United States. Who's doing
This
that?
is all by design.
It's by design, and people are paying for it. And the people paying for it wish to destroy the United States.
And with
Sorry,
that, we're going to
folks.
go. And we're going to
That's what's going on.
We're going to go to a station break. We'll be right back. This is the On Fire Show.
Nation's Gun Show at Dulles Expo in Chantilly, Virginia this weekend. 1,300 tables, over 2 miles of guns, knives, and accessories. Everything you need for the shooting sports and self-defense. Meet Crispy Avila at the EC Defense booth. Concealed handgun classes. The Nation's Gun Show at Dulles Expo. Friday 3 to 8, Saturday 9 to 5, Sunday 10 to 5. Advanced tickets, coupons, and more info at thenationsgunshow.com. That's thenationsgunshow.com.
Flip Ammo is your trusted source of high-quality ammunition. We're passionate about shooting and offer a wide range of products from bulk ammo to hard-to-find rounds, all at competitive prices. You can choose from local pickup or fast daily shipping. We are the fastest shippers in the industry. We strategically developed our space next to the UPS shipping center and can ship most orders same day till 7 p.m. Our dedicated customer service team is always available for any questions or product recommendations. Experience the passion, expertise, and exceptional service that sets us apart. Flip Ammo, your trusted source for high-quality ammunition.
All right, you're back. Welcome to everybody. This is the On Fire Show with the hosts Daryl McKell Brooks, Rebecca Boyd, and Chris Cloud with Professor Mary Sabrin and Thomas Caldwell. We got about a few more minutes to go. Any last words? We're going to start with you, Mr. Thomas Caldwell.
We're way past the point of debate. We're way past the point of analysis. It's the time for action yesterday, if not sooner. What I would recommend people do is, well, first off, educate yourself, learn about these organizations that are aiding in the invasion of the United States. These people are not coming here, by themselves. The other thing too is to organize locally. One of the things that we fail to realize is that most government in the United States is local. All right, especially law enforcement. Most law enforcement in the United States is sheriff's departments. Okay, it's not big city cops that are just the ones that you see doing all the nasty stuff. So it's important to have local communities where you know people, where you have the same sort of values, you have other things in common, but you also are not, trying to be too big for your britches. In fact, a lot of people I have a lot of guns. Yeah, do you have medical supplies and food? That's another thing. It's kind of interesting when you see that. But I'm just saying is we're way past that point. It's debatable whether we're going to be able to vote our way out of this. This is going to be one of the most important years in American history. And whatever comes out of it is going to be new, and hopefully it'll be better. But, stay on your toes, people. This is going to be a rough ride.
Professor Mary Sabrin.
Well, on the one hand, you have to be very optimistic about what's going on, because one thing I learned when I was doing some research during COVID for the couple of books that I wrote during the period is people are very creative and innovative. And I think we're seeing that in healthcare and education. In education, parents are saying, I don't want my kids going to these schools for whatever reason. They're homeschooling. Their parents are getting together and forming educational pods in their communities. And this is a way to give kids the attention that they need and help them learn better and faster. In healthcare, doctors are trying to opt out of the corporatization of healthcare and go to direct primary care and be medical entrepreneurs instead of relying on big government and Medicare and Medicaid and the other big structures that we have in place. And of course, the private sector is doing yeoman's work and getting us goods and services that we need. One thing I told students when I was teaching is one way of knowing that an economy is in relatively decent shape is are there gas lines? because we all lived through the gas. Well, maybe Daryl didn't live through the gas lines.
I remember as a little kid, I was looking
Yeah.
out the window
It was
and I
her-
saw the gowns a mile away. It seemed like
it was
way before Rebecca's time.
yeah,
though.
before
Absolutely.
Rebecca's time.
Yeah,
I remember I was
me
like maybe
too.
6, 7 years old, looking out the window, like why is the line so long?
it was horrendous, and this shows you the breakdown of the economy when the government intervenes with
Mhm.
with price controls and allocation controls and capital controls. Let the market do what it does best: get people together, supply and demand, prices, so goods can flow from production to the consumer seamlessly. And I'm amazed every time I go to the big box stores of all the products that are there from all over the world, and they get there without any hesitation or problems, as long as the government gets out of the way. We saw what COVID did to the supply chain. If we got government out of the way, supply chain would be seamlessly, because we really are in a global economy. I mean, we're getting stuff from all over the world. We're exporting stuff as well. And AI, I think, is going to revolutionize the workplace and our lives in a way that we can't even fathom today.
Hello?
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah.
We can hear you.
oh, you can hear. So listen, we have got a few minutes left. I just wanted to say, Professor Sabrin, Thomas Caldwell, we really enjoyed the conversation, and hopefully we'll have you back on in the near future.
All right, we'll look forward to it.
Thank
We could
you
talk
so much.
about AI maybe,
Yeah, talk about AI.
Yeah, lots to
which
talk
I think is
about.
the
All right,
worst thing we've come up with since nuclear weapons. Believe me.
Oh,
I think
wow.
that's a
Agreed.
horror.
That'll be a great
Horror.
discussion. All right, Doc. This is Thomas Caldwell. We'll see you in the near future. Take care.
You
Thanks,
got it.
everybody. Take care. Good seeing you.
See ya.
Thank you. You too.
All right. All right. All right, we're back. All right, guys. How you doing? We're back. We got about 2 or 3 minutes to go. So I really enjoyed the show.
Me too. Good show. Good information. I think we could take some positive things from what's happening in the world along with all the negative.
Yeah, we're fucked.
You think so?
I know.
You think so?
We're
So-
I thank God that I'm a spectator, man.
Mhm.
I remember a watermark moment. I'm not going to say the beginning of this, but a watermark moment was when it became so popular for people to say, "Who are you to judge me?" We all remember that advent. Who are you to judge me? Only God can judge me. Yeah, bullshit. My father used to tell me, "Boy, judge all you want. Just keep the verdict to yourself once in a while, would you?"
Mhm. You know, one of the things.
That's led to the transhumanism that we're dealing with right now. I'm so old, I remember when we used to justify all of the foreign aid we'd send to countries because we were enabling them to stay in the shithole that they were in and fix their own problem. That's gone by the wayside now, hasn't it? Maduro has actually had the cojones to say, "I won't take them back. I've emptied my prisons. I put them on jets and sent them to America. I won't let the jet land if you try to deport them." The cojones on that son of a bitch.
Yeah, I mean that's. Go ahead, Rebecca.
I think what it would take, looking back during COVID, me thinking, what is it going to take to wake people up to what is happening in our world? What is it going to take? I think it's going to take the surmounting problems that we're facing today to really wake people up. I don't see it. I know it's horrible, but I think we can use it as a blessing if enough people start waking up. And I think it's going to take things getting worse and worse and worse for people to wake up. Our founders knew we wouldn't be destroyed someday from a threat from another country. If we were destroyed, it would be from within our own country. That's exactly what's happening. We could blame China, Russia. It's because we as citizens have totally dropped the ball, haven't paid attention, have let all this happen, and we're paying the consequences of it now. We need to wake up.
Yeah, you're definitely right. You know, it's when I go around the different cities in Trenton and Philadelphia, talk to people. Now I ask them, are they aware of some of the things that are happening right now? And they're like, they don't have a care in the world. Like everything is okay, everything is fine. And
Yep.
it's sad. It is
Yeah.
sad because, we talked about, we have so many people that are functionally illiterate, young kids going to high school, graduating with a 3rd grade reading level. But then you have millions of adults who are in their 20s and 30s and 40s. They don't have a clue what's happening. They don't read. They don't watch certain shows. I said, you want to check out the On Fire show, check out Tucker Carlson, check
Right.
out Glenn Beck. Oh, I don't watch no Glenn Beck. He's a racist. Oh, I don't watch Tucker Carlson. He's a racist. Why should I watch him? Or who
Right.
cares? They want to watch, the late night comedy shows really mess people up. The
It's-
foolishness.
Cognitive dissonance, and it's more comfortable to live in your la-la world than pay attention to reality and what's really going on. But I think we don't need the majority. I think if enough people wake up and start trying to fix this problem and holding our leaders accountable, there's a way out of this. I mean, George Washington, he didn't have everyone on his side waking up to the wonders of freedom. There were a lot of people who were like, let's not, I just want to live my comfortable life, farm my farm, and not go to war on behalf of freedom. So we can't underestimate the power of a few. I mean, we still have to do our work and be involved and try to wake people up. But I don't think that we should be so, beaten down just because not everyone's waking up.
I think
know.
it's
Keep it positive.
Listen, welcome to America. All these things are happening: illegal immigration, education, violence in our communities, violence in our schools. We have the natural disasters, things happening in Texas, California. We got one place in the West Coast. We're talking about 12 feet of snow. A few days ago it was 75 degrees in Michigan. So it's a crazy country. We got the new movie coming out. This is that Civil War, and people are now questioning what will happen to our society. And we need to talk about more empathy for our young people. Martin Luther King said it best. He said that we're all caught up in this great inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. And I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. And you can never be what you ought to be unless I am what I ought to be. Then he quotes the poet John Donne and says, no man is an island. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. Then he goes on to say that any man's death diminishes me because I am involved in mankind. Therefore, never send to know whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. These are the things that we should be doing for our people, but they don't see it. It doesn't, as people aren't waking up. People are not caring for their neighbors. Their neighbors could be right next door. Their neighbors could be in another city or town or another state.
Yep.
We have to wake up people. We have to do the right thing, but also take care of our own first. That's important, our own country, our own citizens,
Right.
and spending millions of dollars and billions of dollars on illegals. And people are not from our own country, and the people are dying in the streets in our own country and don't have a place to live. And so it's a big problem. And, we have to fix it. And if we don't fix it, then all hell is going to break loose, and be prepared.
That's right.
Yep. Go to the Nation's Gun Show. Isn't that right, Chris? Get your ammo.
Lots of guns.
Sure.
Yeah. All right, ladies. Listen, we'd like to thank you all for watching. This is the On Fire Show. I'm Daryl McKell-Brooks. That's Chris Cloud and Rebecca Boy. Looking awesome, Rebecca, like always.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. We'll see you next week. This is the On Fire Show. God bless.
Good night, everyone.
Peace.